Hey, this is Jack at TC3. Today we're going to replace some brakes and bearings on a Honda TRX 250EX or a Honda 250X. They're all the same pretty much all the years. First we're going to remove the wing nut, the two wing nuts from the brake cables, the one that comes from the lever and also the one that comes from the foot brake. Okay, after you get that off, you're just going to kind of pull it out like that. Just what I would do is slide the spring and the wing nut back on it so you don't have to go looking for these later. Just kind of pick it up and get it out of your way for now. I took the plastics off this. We're fixing a bunch of other things on this as well. So we're going to take the wheel off right now, the right side. We'll end up taking them both off. The Honda has almost no braking power, so we decided it was about time to do this. On the rear anyway, the front brakes still work well. Get a tire off. There are bolts here, and one on the other side that hold on this bash plate. You have to pull them off to get to drop this. There we go. This bolt I'm showing here is a drain plug. If water ever gets inside of this closed cylinder, it'll have that'll be like a drain plug to let it out. When your O-rings and your seals wear out, water and mud can get inside of that and just make a mess. There's 5 bolts along the edge of this that holds this housing on here. When you pull this out, the whole brake assembly will be attached to it. So we'll remove those 5 bolts. See, there's a little spot you can slip a flathead screwdriver to pry that open the flat surface along where the mounts, where the brake cables go. You can also hit that with a hammer. It's just aluminum. Don't, hit it really hard. You use a little penetrating oil to help some of these nuts and bolts and screws loose. You don't really need to pull this arm off, but I'm going to take it off because we're going to it hasn't been apart. This thing's over 10 years old, so I'm going to I want to lubricate everything too. It almost never comes apart. So after that arm comes off, there's a washer and the return spring, so they both come off. Okay. Now, I just use a big crescent wrench on this. I actually don't know what size this is. This is a really big nut. Very fine threads on this axle. So you definitely want to have used penetrating oil. It really helps them nuts to go or you'll struggle with it. And there's one outside nut and one inside. The outside one is kind of like a lock nut. Okay, you'll discover the inside one. You need to give it another squirt of penetrating oil because, them threads just aren't all that clean, and it'll help it to move easier. There we go. Get that one off. You're going to find a thrust washer that you'll pull off. Now they're just sitting on the axle. We need to remove the wheel hub. Okay, so we need to first remove the cotter pin that was holding that and the nut. And this will just slide off now, the wheel hub. There is a little collar that just slides onto the end of the axle. That will need to come off as well. Now all your nuts and the washers will just pull off the axle. I tend to like to keep these together in the order that they came off, so I'll just put a zip tie around them in the order they came off, so I won't be thinking, did this one come on first or the other one? So keeps the confusion level down. And there's one more washer. I probably should have pulled this one off and put it with the rest. That will also come off. What I didn't show here is on the inside of the collar there's a little O-ring. You need to get that off. It'll make it very difficult for this to come off if you don't. That's the collar right there. And okay, there's your hub with the brakes in it. Okay, so here's all the pieces. You can see that one rubber O-ring I told you about. It's actually really hard to get it off if you don't take that off. And now the axle will just pull right out. You can push it from the left to the right. So I was detecting this had bad bearings, like there was too much wobble in it. So I'm just taking the axle off and kind of got to replace that and put the one end of the axle on the ground. I'm just hitting this brake drum and there we go. It just falls off like that. Okay, here's the collar. You see all that play? That's not a good thing. That's wobbling. Not a tight seal to the seal, which is right here. You just kind of pry that out. Okay, back to the penetrating oil. Okay, squirt that in there. As you can see, there's like a C-clip. You see the two holes that you can grab it with the pliers. And so I got them started, and then I kind of got it. This is hard to get out, so I kind of just got one end loose and just grabbed it with a plier. Your bearing now just can be slid out the other end. I took a socket about the same size as the bearing. I'm just gonna hit it till it comes out. This is a little tougher than it looks. You'll be at this for a little while. And the bearing broke into pieces because it was all worn out anyway. So I need to get the outside of the bearing race out of there. So anyway, just keep hacking, you'll get it. In all likelihood, when you do get it out, it'll come out in pieces. Like this. This was a bearing once. Okay, she's obviously shot. And that's why we're replacing it. And here's the brake shoe. It's not even in one piece anymore, which would account. And this is covered with mud, rust, corrosion, and mess. This brake drum's going to need to be cleaned. Put a dust mask on. It's a dirty operation. And that also means water was getting in. You have mud and rust. Not a good thing. Okay, so the bearing's gone. That's what she'll look like. I cleaned up the outside of this a little bit. We're going to put the new bearing in. I'm going to light a torch here. The method here we're going to use is you heat up the brake drum to expand it, and you freeze your bearing to contract it, and it will slide into the housing where the bearing goes with a lot less effort if you do this. Other than that, you're going to have to kind of beat it in there, or use a press. I use a press. Even if you use a press, the heating up of the housing is a really good idea. So I'll probably be doing this for like, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 minutes. I'm not going to pour it, but I'll be warming this for a while. Okay, I don't know what happened to the video of me putting the bearing in, but it went in pretty easy. This is the stud that the brakes will spin on, so I just put a little bit of grease. Don't go crazy, because this is a braking thing. Okay, here's the axle. There is an O-ring that needs to be replaced due to make a seal. See how dirty and nasty this is? That's it. That will come off, and this raised area is what rides against your seal, so I have to clean that up as well. Okay. We have that in. We're going to put the new expansion ring in there that just kind of seals it. If that's in it, it's not going anywhere. We'll take our new seal. I'd put a little oil on the outside of it and just slide it into here. It's not going to go, it's not just going to slide in real easy. You're going to have to tap it in. Be really careful doing this because it's easy to ruin the seal. It's just very soft rubber. Take your time. They make a tool especially for that. I didn't have it, so that's how I did it. Okay, we're going to replace the seal for the actuator arm. We'll pull the old one out. I'm just using a battery terminal cleaner to clean this because it was rusty and I don't think it's the right tool, but it worked perfect. So I'm going to oil up a new seal, urethane seal, and I'll push that into this hole here. I'll take a socket that's about the same size and push it down. There we go. Okay, here's your actuator arm. I covered it with grease. And so that'll be greased up now. So I push that through. It should go through where the seal was that I just showed you. This is the inside of your differential. Look at how nasty that looks. I'm going to have to pour some oil in and flush that all out. I'm taking the new brakes and I'm kind of putting the springs on them before I even try to put it onto the brake assembly. There's a way to do that and it's pretty easy. So you take the two halves, fold them in half, don't let the springs come loose. Put one side under, there's a little lip on the top of both of these mounts. So you kind of get the one side under and the other side you just kind of turn down. And okay, one side's under it and one side's over. So I'm going to just bang down this one. There we go. Okay, now you just want to make sure the upper edge of your new brake shoes is not above that lip. Here, I'll show you. There, see that? That's mounted correctly. And that side's above the lip too. That's mounted correctly. And then you don't have to try to get the springs on while it's on there. I find this to be the easier way. Okay, there's a felt dust barrier that goes over that urethane seal by your brake actuator. So you put that on. Okay, you're going to put your return spring and your washer and your arm back on. You want that arm to go up and down, just missing that other hole. That's how it's supposed to go. So on the top here, I'm going to pour some gear oil in there. I told you I was going to flush. That was nasty. When you pull this bolt out the side hole, that's how you know it's full. Well, I drained it. You see what's in there, right? That's not oil. That is rusty water. Okay. That's not what was supposed to be in there. So I'm going to pour oil in here until it starts to come out the full hole. When it reaches that hole where it pours out the side, that's when you know that it's full. So, there it is. Okay, when it's all done, you tighten up that top. What I did was spin the axle around and get it all clean in there, pull it back out and let it drain like 3 times. This is the muddy mess that came out. And then I drained all that and put new clean oil in there. So that additionally was the mess inside of that differential. Okay, we got to pull the old O-ring off of the axle. Take a wire brush. You need to clean this high edge because this is what seals against the new seal we're putting in. And you work that over with a wire brush or sandpaper, whatever you use. I'm going to take some grease and just rub it on the spines and on the area and on the bearing area. Roll that new O-ring into place. Just like that. Now I'm going to take the brake drum and slide it onto them spines. Just give it a couple of bangs on the ground, that'll seat it. And I'm going to slide her back into the differential. There we go. Okay, here's the new pre-assembled brake assembly. Slide that onto here also. Brakes will slide inside of that drum, and then we just need to line up the 5 hole tabs that mounts this. Take a little hammer to tap it in. It's seating that last little bit of that. I didn't show it, but there's a giant O-ring that goes around that brake housing. You need to make sure that's on before you put this back together. It's trying to make it oil and weather tight. So we'll just tighten those 5 bolts. We're going to take the new collar and put it in. Put it with the edge, like it'll have a little notch on the inside. You need to do that because the next thing you're going to do is slide your O-ring into that. And that's what's going to make a seal that goes up against your axle. The inside of the axle. The outside will be made by the other seal you had already put in. There we go. That's what it'll look like. And you're going to take your large washer that you took off earlier and you put the zip tie around. You put that in flat. Once that's tight in there, that's going to hold everything. There's a thrust washer. If you can see that, it says out on the outside of that. That needs to be to the outside, obviously. So you put it in like that. Now you're going to put your nuts on. First, the one with the collar goes tight up against the big washer. And the smaller one goes up against that and locks it. Now we're going to put the collar on that goes on the axle. It goes just like that. And we're going to slide our hub back on. Take your big axle nut and tighten that real tight so that there's no wobble in this. You're going to take your new cotter pin and bend the ends over to lock it like that. Here's both of your brake cables, and make sure they're routed correctly and adjusted at least so you can start to make your brake adjustments. Make sure the cables are mounted along the frame the way they were before. And that's about it. You just need to put your back tires back on, and that's about it. You're good to go. Thank you for watching.